This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
The aftermath of every social revolution brings about change. Cultural norms and landmarks shift as our minds and hearts expand beyond the familiar. To everything, there is a season and a time to every purpose in the land of the living. This is our time to renew, revive, and restore the hope lost to the busyness of life. This is our time to dig again and rebuild from the storms of our past on a solid footing that holds. Welcome to The Foundation.
The Foundation. Foundation.
The Foundation will be back right after this.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is The Foundation with Howard Grant right here on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. So happy you can be able to tune in with us. I'm so happy on this beautiful Wednesday. It's hump day. I know you guys are getting over the hump and kind of get yourselves prepared for the weekend. Is that just a thing with us? Are we just trying to prepare ourselves for the weekend? Is that the only thing that we do? is that one of the things that we do? Sit here, go to work on Monday, and as the week progresses, then you find yourself more happy and elated that the weekend's coming, and then you start all over again. But we're here, it's hump day, and I'm so happy that we're having a conversation. You know, you and I had this conversation before. I told you that on Wednesdays, we're going to try something a little new, a little fresh, and try something a little different. I want to be able to, in the true spirit of fusion, right? In the true spirit of unity and being able to bring the beginning of the week with the end of the week, let's fuse that. And today I wanted to be able to have a good conversation with some of my friends and talk about some of the things that's concerning our community. We talked about this kind of an idea that the foundation is not only about being able to talk about issues that we suffer and we've been suffering ad nauseum. We want to talk about solutions more strategically and specifically. And we want to touch some of these taboo topics. We want you to be a part of it. We want to touch some of these taboo topics that people contend to, that traditionals rather, kind of, they shove under the table, they push aside, they say, hey, listen, we can touch that right now. Today, we want to talk about those things. I have two wonderful persons in the studio with me. I'm sure on another platform you guys sat with me.
Yes.
On another platform you sat with me. See me being decent, right? And decency and order. I can tell you where it was.
Yes.
But on another platform you sat with me and we had these great conversations, and today it's no different. We're going to be able to do that. Ladies before gentlemen, I want to be able to introduce you to none other than Kendra Bowe. She is the head of Rite of Passage, and I would like her to introduce herself and really tell you what the organization is all about.
Hello, Bahamas. It's great to be here. Thank you, Howard, for having us. I'm the founder and CEO of the Rite of Passage Project, which is really a project that is geared towards education, advocacy, and rehabilitation. And so education in the sense that, and why Rite of Passage is, we're talking about going back and getting the wisdom of the past to help us in terms of what we need today. And so sometimes I think people think you have to reinvent the wheel, and there's just some foundational, fundamental truth, principles, wisdom that our ancestors already discovered, that they already went through their experiences, and it's really just us applying it with some of the, innovative practices that we may have today, but having that as the foundation of it and recognizing why those things were so important and how it helped to build families, communities, society. Because sometimes, they say we throw the baby out with the bathwater. Mm-hmm. And I think we are in such an age today because there's so much information that we're throwing away so much fundamental principles and values and practices that because maybe people didn't know why they existed or they didn't feel they were necessary anymore. They've thrown it away. And I feel like that is contributing a lot to what we're seeing here in society today.
It's heavy what you're saying because I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you as it relates to Rite of Passage. And I'm thinking about, is your organization, does it strategically or specifically identify women, or is it all inclusive that you?
It is all inclusive, dealing
What's your
primarily
demographics?
though with youth, young people, and so we
okay.
work in the schools because, of course, if you want to preserve the future, you need to work with young people, and so we work in the schools, we work in the churches, and we work within the community as well, and so the idea really is to share those values, those principles, that knowledge that they need to have to help them become productive citizens.
You know what's heavy is that the fact is that we don't have a rite of passage here in the country. When you look at other cultures and other spaces, I'm not talking about first world places that has kind of dived into technology and capitalism and all of these things. I'm talking about traditional spaces that held a true sense of ethnicity and culture.
Yes.
When you look at these spaces, there always is an element to say that this is a rite of passage. Now you've become this. If you are Latin American, Mexican, or whatnot, you are
Jewish,
or Jewish, right? So you have to go through your quinceañera, right?
Yes.
You have to go through what's the Jewish
Bar
called?
mitzvah.
Your bar mitzvah, right? You have to go through these particular avenues to get to a rite of passage,
Yes.
right? We don't necessarily have a rite of passage here in the country, right?
Right, not a what I would say.
Culturally identified,
Yes,
and accepted.
Yes, so there are what are considered
It
like
shifts-
a graduation. It shifts.
It shifts based upon your community and background, you know?
Yes, it does.
Because if you're from certain places, let's say hypothetically, I'm an Anglican. There's an expectation as an Anglican, I become confirmed.
Yes, same thing with Catholics.
With Catholics,
Yes.
I become confirmed.
Right.
I got to go to the christening. I got to go. So this is sort of your
and it is a sort
religious.
of religious rite of passage. Graduation is somewhat a
everybody
part
don't
of that.
everybody
I know,
graduate.
but it is somewhat
graduate.
identified as that. But it is even marriage is a part of rite of
But
passage.
things have shifted.
Things definitely are shifting.
And this is what we're going to talk about
Yes.
today. We're going to talk about this shift. I want to talk about whether or not the shift and the transition that just happens with the natural flow of life. These things happen. And I want to talk about whether or not this shift has moved us away from the goalposts of progression and growth in our society,
Yes.
and moved us in this sort of this denigration that we see,
Yes.
where persons are dying day in, day out. We have issues as it relates to illegal immigration. We have social and domestic issues. I want to talk about these things, right? So that's that. That's Ken Verbo, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to dive deeper into the conversation, but I have another person here in the studio with me, Dwight Williams. He's really, really wonderful in his particular capacity and being able to talk about these things. And I really want to talk about with him. His area has always been to identify men. His group or organization is called Uplifting Men. Tell us a little bit about that and tell us where you are in that particular perspective.
Okay, once again, good evening. As persons know David Williams, or Dave Williams, as most people
I call you
know.
Dwight.
Yes.
You need to stop me.
No problem. Dwight is our good friend.
Yes.
For me, Uplifting Men's Ministry, I've been involved in ministry for over 20 plus years from the day I gave my life to Christ. But Uplifting Men's Ministry was actually launched in 2011, and I was told to give credit. I was going to Kenya, Africa, the motherland, and I at the time I was a former employee of BPL BEC. And in talking to, I happened to come across where Pastor Miles Monroe lived. Now, I didn't know him.
You stalk him?
Yeah, I didn't really know. I just working for BEC.
stalked the man.
Yeah, reading the meters, I get to find out where everybody live. Because once I pull up the house and I see the name,
You see what the people do?
So when I see this was Miles Monroe, so I say, hey, I buy his house. So I knocked on the door, identified myself, and Pastor Miles Monroe.
This is bananas what you're doing, sir.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, side note. Don't do this. Don't come to people and say, man, go ahead, right?
Yeah. So knowing Pastor Miles Monroe, when he meet people, because I guess he was into the people, he don't just leave you alone. Because I actually sit down in this house for 30 to 45 minutes.
Jesus.
He gave me books.
You ain't doing your work yet.
No. He want to know. He asked who I is and all kind of stuff, but purpose and stuff. But the point is, so I told him I was going to Kenya. So he said, oh, come back and see me. So I did come back. I saw him. And when I came to see him, he gave me some material. And he said, the only thing I'll ask you is give the source credit. And that's why I brought up his name. So that every time I talk about the launch of the Uplifting Men's Ministry in Kenya, I would always give the credit to him because he provided me with the material to share. So for that, I launched the Uplifting Men's Ministry, where I was always involved in prison ministries for over 20 plus years. And I've gotten involved in various groups that deals with men like the Brotherhood with Dr. Carlos Reed, also the IMD, International Men's Day with the late Terence Bethel and Keith Cox. And so my passion has been men. And over the years, and this is how I'm convinced that this is where Christ is leading me, because I come into spaces with broken men. And the Lord uses me and others to share and to identify with men who have been broken. Just like the ministry say, I uplift men. I don't pull them down. I don't share nothing negative. I don't entertain nothing negative about men.
How long has your ministry been around here in the country?
Uplifting Men's Ministry was launched officially in 2011, and it is incorporated. So and I came into the national broadcasting station.
Just in case somebody wants to send you a check. I see what you did there.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah. Yeah, well, it's incorporated because I really meant business, you know. I really meant business. I recognize that the challenge we have with men, and this is why, and I tied in with prison ministries, because when you think of it, I can recall, I'll share this. In 2004, I was blessed to go to the Philippines. I spent doing some missionary work. So in the daytime, I literally every day I went into the prison in the Philippines. In the evening, I did what I came there to do, got involved. But in the daytime, I went into the prison because that passion, I believe, that Christ has led me to has always been men's
ministry. Do you speak the language?
Oh, no.
So was there, I had to ask that question because there has to be some commonality that actually draws people if you're going to be in there and being impactful. How was that experience for you?
For me, it was an awesome experience. Actually, the year before I had went to Ghana. So, okay.
You are about all over the world.
Yeah, yes, because that's what over the last 20 years, that's what I did. I got a lot of opportunities to travel for 2 weeks, spend 2 weeks, get to know the people, share the gospel and, things like that. But
is this your own initiative or this was something that you've been sort of identified to do?
Well, it is in collaboration with my church, but I always got persons to sponsor it. So to assist me with making missionary trips like that. So yes, I took the initiative to go in partnership with my church. I'm a member of the Seventh-day Adventist family, right? I serve as an elder in the Adventist church. But like I said, it was self-sustainable because I had to always find the funding. The church gave something, but I had to find the funding. But you asked the experience. The experience for me was awesome. Let me say why. First, I did not realize in Ghana, I know there's a Commonwealth country, so I expected them to speak English, even though we use translators. In the Philippines, they use translators, but I was told that they were colonized by the Americans, so they spoke English also. And so for me, that was an awesome experience because to use this term, here's this young black young man in a country where predominantly white folks were, right, or of the Asian race. And I happen to be unique in the sense that wherever I go, I got attention. I can recall, I'll share this. I can recall there was a parade passing my hotel. A couple of the young children, like primary school age, actually 2 persons walked off the parade and took their hand and actually put it on my face.
They couldn't believe it.
Yes, they can believe it.
Black man.
Right. Now, I know the older people would have said it, but in their case, and I had a negative experience. I'll say that. This is the first time I've said this. I had the negative experience of 2, and of course, children again, while we were touring the schools, I told them I wanted to go into the schools, where 2 of the children actually would say nigga.
And that's what they say to you.
Yeah, but, it was an experience. I enjoyed it. But, right? So that was my experience.
Well, you can say that if
he said he enjoyed the overall experience.
Yeah, because he can say, I enjoyed that in Alabama. Yeah. It would be a whole different experience.
Right? Yes.
But listen, I want to know how this union, this fusion, this kind of collaboration happened. How did you 2 find each other to be able to work on? Because Kendra, you're out here and you're working in the schools on a day-to-day basis. And for the most part, Dave, you say that you're in the prison.
Yeah.
How did you find each other to start working on one objective? Because I think this is sort of the representation of what we want to see as it relates to community and moving forward.
Right.
So how did this happen?
Well, really, it was when I now wanted to move to that next step, which was getting into the prison and starting work in the prison as well.
You normally don't hear people say that.
Yes.
I want to do a next step. I want to get into prison now.
Yeah. That's unusual.
Because what happened is, as I was dealing with young people, particularly those young persons who had been to boys' school, girls' school, had been put out of school or suspended, there was a high percentage of them whose fathers were incarcerated. And there were issues that were stemming from that. And so even when we did work with them at the center, when they had to go back home, the challenges were still so heavy that it was like they felt like they were fighting an uphill battle in terms of producing change their own selves. And so it was like, okay, now I need to move to that next phase, which is now where I need to work with the fathers. And so that's what led me to now saying, okay, I need to move to the next step, which was the prison. And it really was a next step because I could not have been effective in the prison if I had not passed the test with the young men first. Because I had dealt with them, it prepared me in terms of now working in the prison. And so through Prison Fellowship Bahamas, that's where I came to know David. And then from there, we did a program together, two programs actually.
Yes, CSJP, Citizen Security Justice Program. It was sponsored by Ministry of National Security, and it was training in gender-based violence and sexual violence prevention.
I know that program very well.
Yes.
So that's how you guys, this is a wonderful thing. This is a great thing. Now, I want to know something, because at the core of this is this, and we're going to take a commercial break and get back to talking about these things. Today, we want to talk about a few things. We want to talk about gender-based violence. We want to talk about marital rape. We want to talk about violence against men. We want to talk about your concept for prison ministries. We want to be able to put some taboo things on the table and really push the envelope and see whether or not we can be able to see the reform that we want and get our minds thinking and move in a different direction. You actually caused something to spike in my mind. Let me tell you why. When you start to talk about prison and the mindset associated with those particular persons in prison and the young people, you said that they've been trying so hard, trying to be able to see if they can get some things done. I want to know about transformation. I want to know about, because we've known from a faith perspective that transformation has to be introduced, has to come in. And I want to know the difference between transformation and sort of trying to rearrange some things in your own self to give the perception that you're in a better position. But does that really happen? Let's talk about those things. Guys, you know the numbers. I want you to be a part of the conversation today. 325-4316, 325-4316, 325-4259, or hit us up on the text, 422-4796. We got two great organizations, the heads of the organizations represented here in studio with us today, having great conversations about men, having great conversations about the rite of passage, how do we find ourselves in the right position to see the society that we want to see. Please give us a call, 325-4316, 325-4259, or hit us up 422-4796. Let's take this quick commercial break and be right back after this.
Foundation. The Foundation. We'll be back right after this.
The Foundation. The Foundation. The Foundation. The Foundation.
Fidelity, we're good for you.
Whether your business is in-store, on the go, or both, let Fidelity work with you to maximize your customers' payment options with a fixed or mobile terminal so that you never miss a sale. It's safer than cash and more convenient so that you can take your business anywhere. For details, contact a business development officer today at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport, or visit our website at fidelitygroup.com.
Fidelity, we're good for you. Love the show? Want to give your support? Become a sponsor today. Call 302-2300 for our rates and packages. That's 302-2300. Become a sponsor on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
The new Guardian Radio app is here. Listen live to all our Guardian Radio shows and live video stream select programs in our studio. Get information about Guardian Radio shows and our hosts. Send messages, including text, email, and even call. All from our amazing new Guardian Radio app. Download it free today in your App Store for your Apple device or Play Store for your Android device. The all-new and improved Guardian Radio app.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Foundation. Foundation. The Foundation. The foundation.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, 96.9 FM radio, Guardian Radio. Howard Grant in your company with the foundation. So happy that you tuned in today here on this beautiful hump day. It's Wednesday, and we're in the house with none other than Kendra Bow from Rite of Passage and Dave Williams from Uplifting Men. Now, when we went to break, before we went to break, I needed to know something because it sticked out to me, right? Most of the time when we see transformation, most of the times that we see this sort of change, especially if we have identified a man or a woman to be able to have a particular rhythm that we can expect from them. Okay, these people are thieves or these people are whatever, right? Socially, we've already tagged these people.
Yes.
Socially, in your community, right?
Yes.
So you say, well, this one is a loose one, or this one is this one is that. Well, child, you can be just like your daddy, expect you to go to jail, right? Or you get locked up, you're just like your daddy, right? And then something happens. Socially, whether from a governmental standpoint or whether it's from those people in our communities who have a desire to be able to see change like you, like both of you, right? You want to be able to get involved. And to get involved, you want to introduce a couple of steps. Now, we've seen some things come out of America that says there's a 12-step program. There's a 10-step program, right? But at the end of the day, you have to continue to be able to repeat mantras and this kind of an idea. Talk to me about the transformation that you seek to bring to the young people. Is it along the same lines of the science, or is it faith-based? I want to know about these things. Go ahead.
So basically what we have used along the years has been a combined approach. So one was really recreating the family. And so when we say that, and earlier when you asked in terms of how we got together, I just believe that in terms of there is a male-female complement, particularly when you're dealing with young people, but also society, that helps to bring a balance. There are things that are inherent in terms of women, and those are things that are inherent in men. And when that balance comes, it helps to create a balance in terms of helping to bring change in terms of to an environment. So with the young people, because their issues predominantly, many of them stem from the fact that the father wasn't present in the home. What we simply did was recreate a family environment. And there were actually persons who represented really different members of the family. So I represented the mother, and so they called me mom. And sometimes people would be like, Miss Bow, I didn't know you had a daughter, because you would have young girls who was calling me mom. And so and
it came just natural to them.
And it came natural because that was just the role that I filled. I made sure, okay, they were okay. You know, I nurtured, I, provided food, those sorts of things.
Teach them how to plot.
I do that one.
That's
but also even with the young men, like even if they was dating someone, they introduced me as their mother to someone who they was dating, and they were like, oh, this is my mom. Like I'd be riding on the street and I'll hear someone scream out, mommy. And that's because we worked.
Whole, not just mom. They had the whole mom eat.
The whole thing.
Crazy.
But because I've been in the work now also about 20 years in terms of doing it. And when it first started happening, I was like, okay, God, what is this now? Because this is too much here.
I know people looking at you like, Miss, you too, when you had these babies. Yeah, you're too young to be having each other.
At one point, there was a boot camp program from a program that I was a part of. And the gentleman who was overseeing the boot camp, he wasn't there. So I had to take them. So I had a van full of what would be considered bad boys. And I see the man walk outside, and he look at me in this van full, the big vans full, and he say, you was all Marabere.
You got all the children, all the fellas.
Wow. All the children.
That's amazing.
And so, but what we really did was recreated the family. And so it was important to have that male figure that represented the father, that figure that represented the mother. We had those who represented uncles, those who represented the Grammy. And like literally depending on the need of the child that came in, it helped us to identify who needed to sometimes take the lead in actually building the greater bond.
How does this happen? How does this happen? I know that you said that you went into the schools, you go into the churches. Is it an introduction to the administration or to the leadership of those organizations, and you say, hey, listen, this is what we do, and then they say, okay, well, list the bad ones, just take them? Or
no? So
do you have parents coming to you also?
So it was actually a combination. So one is I work closely with schools. So there are some particular private schools that I work very closely with. So when there are issues and challenges, they would automatically call me. for those students, and to provide some counseling or services and whatever have you for those students. And then there would have been a period where we had a center where students actually came to the center there. And then we worked with them there. And so now we're going more so on campus and really dealing with students, whether it's at Simpson Penn or whether in the schools on campus, and we're doing it in terms of that format. But really, fundamentally, it was recreating the family. And in recreating the family, it was really abiding by the principles of love, honor, and respect. And one of the key things was that we could not sit and wait for children or students or young people to respect us first, but it was actually giving them love and respect first. So it wasn't going by just what the school said about them, what they did wrong, what you knew they may have done wrong, but it was just applying those principles first, and it sort of disarmed them once you did that, because they now recognize that you weren't trying to attack them or approach them from a negative light, and then you could build a bond. And once you build that bond, and those same principles stand true for the prison as well, that when you go in and you deal with inmates, when you come on a level where you treat them with respect regardless of whatever the crime was, they respond to you differently. And so that was one of the things that schools became amazed by, because it was like they sent this list of things that was wrong with this child and what they were doing and everything, and we saw a different result. Not that they didn't do those things in school, but because we dealt with them differently, there was a different response that they gave that allowed us to now work with them and then create a formula pretty much to help the issue.
Is there an idea, and I want to ask you this, Dave, is there an idea that the traditional or the established environment that we come to could be very condescending with their expectations? Watch me. You go into school expect you to automatically reform or conform to what the expectations are in this environment. School don't consider your background. School don't consider if you're hungry. School don't consider if your mother beating you or you're getting raped or all of these things.
Right.
If those things happening, then you say something about it.
Right.
But school has an expectation that when you show up in this uniform, you act in accordance to what our expectations are from you. Is that traditional approach rather condescending and speaking down to people? And do you all take a different approach when you're dealing with young children like that?
Well, first of all, Kenjo has more experience dealing with the young people, but to answer your question, the foundation, that's the name of this show. That's where I believe it needs to start from. As a matter of fact, just last week, myself, Pastor Carlos Reed, and a group of us, we call ourselves the Brotherhood. And so we're establishing for this year, our first school is Ridgeland Park Primary. The principal already sent me the information because I recognize that we need to get to the foundation. So a part of it is right, we need to get into, and I told her that what we want to do is go into the homes. It does not make sense, in my opinion now, for us to be up there talking to these young boys in the schools and we're not in the homes. I visited the school on Carmichael Road. Sybil Strawn spoke with the vice principal just this week because she wants me to start another program in the school. And I said the same thing to her when I meet with the principal. We need to establish the foundation. I need to go into those homes because I need to sit down and talk with the parents. I want to meet the fathers. You see? So I don't want to just get up there every day and have some program for 45 minutes for lunch. Then the boys go their way and I go my way. I say, no, we got to go to the foundation. I want to sit down with the fathers and let us help to understand what is happening in the home.
There is a significant disconnect happening here. Let me tell you why. As I sit and I listen and we know about the structure of it, and I think we have to keep driving this home. There's a lack of community, and there's a sense of hopelessness happening in our country right now. Okay, so I feel as though a great deal of single mothers, parents, so forth and so on are so busy trying to ensure that they could keep the family afloat. Sometimes our kids fall through the cracks.
Yes.
Right? And I don't think it's a deliberate thing, especially to those mothers who finally wake up or have to come run off their job, their second job, to be able to run down to the police station and say, oh, Jesus, I can't believe it's my child, because that child, boy, girl, or whatever, has slipped through the cracks. So I want to know, when you start to say you want to meet the mother, you want to meet the father, how's that reception?
Well, I haven't started the school program yet. So what I'm saying is this, for me, this is how I want it to be different. I don't just want to go into school, talk for 45 minutes to the boys, have an assembly, and then that's it. I'm saying I want to make the sacrifice in the evenings on a Saturday or Sunday. If there are 10, let's say there are 10 young boys in this space, right? and I'm meeting with them. I want the permission. I want whatever need to be done so that I can meet with the mothers, but particularly with the fathers, and let them know.
It's heavy.
Yeah, that's
so
what I'm saying.
I don't know who their daddy is.
Well, whoever I can
Let's
meet
shoot
with,
straight.
that's my point. I don't want to just talk to them and give them some motivational speech. Howard, I learned this from ministry, and all y'all in ministry, and you know that. You find the true problems when you visit the homes. See, people come
That's
to
what the
church.
problem resides.
Yes, that's right. You got to go in the homes. You got to sit down and find out what's happening in the homes. And this is what I want to do with the boys.
There was a study done, and I keep, I hit on it over the years a couple of times. There was a study done some time back by the Catholic diocese, right? And the Catholic diocese says it's only from 0 to 7. They just need a child between the ages of 0 to 7.
Mm-hmm.
And once you condition that child between those particular ages to do whatever you desire them to do, after 7 years old, it's already programmed. It programmed in their mind. Let me tell you something. You could turn me backwards, flip me upside down, swing me around, put me in the middle of the bush. Once I smell incense and I hear the bell ring, I know we in church. So, because I come from Anglican church.
Yes.
If any level of rhythm that you say about, because I serve in the Anglican church, right? Anything that you do, right? I know, okay, this is an Anglican element. I know all the intercession prayers. I know all these things. I come from this church.
Mm-hmm.
So I say that to say, that could never leave me.
Mm-hmm.
I've left the church now. I'm in Anglican church and years and years and years. I just been on the 24th, Christmas Sunday with my mother and my father. And just like that, everything comes back. My father said, I don't know, I can't believe you know them things. I said, but I changed all my life. But you all send to church every Sunday and know these things. My point to you is this. The children who have seen this violence, who now grow up to be men in prisons, who are, indifferent in school and giving teachers all this pushback and these issues associated with what's happening in school, they've seen this sort of tribulation in their homes. How can we, with all our desires for transformation, with all our desires to be able to change and reform some things in their minds and their spirits and get them to be good, productive citizens, when they go back home, they have to now reconform again just to survive. How do we deal with those things?
This is why I'm saying now I want to go into the homes to talk with the mommy, to talk with the daddy, the Grammy, the uncle, whoever are individuals in those homes who has the influence to encourage them to share information with them. Because I realize, that's what I'm saying again, I don't want to just give I actually, with prison, I have done it a couple of times, right? Not as much as I would like to, but I have actually done it where I went to families and to sit down and to talk about this person or that person. And then you get some information what will blow our mind, not giving an excuse for what they did. But when you understand the background, let me give you an example. There's a gentleman last year, was all on the news, who was a sex offender, was let out of prison. His face was all over the papers and everything, right? And then he died shortly afterwards, right? Y'all remember the case. I know him well. He sat in our class, Kendra. We have a home where we keep persons when they come out of prison, right?
Half house?
We have we call a transitional home, right, where they be born in the state of at least 18 months. Yes, we do. We do have a halfway house. But I said it to say, so when I heard what happened and when I heard his brother come on the news, right? I heard his brother came on the news and shared the background. Then I understand what led to not make an excuse for him. But even more than that, I said all of that to say this. I went to Freeport, Howard, and I reached out, okay? So once I heard it on the news, I began to make the contacts to find out how do I reach his family. And I was told, go here, go there. I visited his mother. I visited his brother here. And then I went to Freeport on a different occasion. But while on that occasion, I was able to reach out to the brother, and he appreciated it. So all I'm saying, I said all of that to say, we got to get into those homes. We got to sit down and talk with these young boys' parents and or the guardian, and it helps us to understand them better. Where they're not getting love in the home, we are able to show them love.
So I would want to say that.
How you get in the house?
So having worked with a program for a number of years that actually did that, the gentleman who really took that role very seriously, Mr. Penn. And the thing about it is I find that what tends to happen a lot is people become passionate and say, okay, they want to change. They want to help. They want to see a change. But many people really aren't committed to what it really takes to make that happen.
Because you have to make a declaration to change when there's immediate discomfort. Let's just shoot straight.
Right.
When you feel that immediate discomfort, when your ribs hurting, or your foot hurting, and your head hurting, when your pockets hurting.
Yes.
You say, oh my God, I got to change. I can't do this no more.
Right.
And then when you find yourself back and creeping back into not to change. Juan and I had this conversation before.
Mm-hmm.
He said, everybody wants to do better. He said, everybody wants to succeed, right? And I disagreed with him. He said, well, Howard, why do you say that? I said, because I could see that people move towards comfort and contentment. People fight to get back to a space of comfort. And once they're comfortable, because there's always room for change.
Right.
Change is relentless, and you could always be able to pursue change. But if you find yourself nestled in comfort, and you say, well, Jesus, it ain't that bad.
Yeah, but some people also feel like they can't do any better.
Right.
And I can tell you from working with, you talked about the home and going into the home. So there are quite a bit of single mothers who are out there, and literally it's like it's only one thing they know. So they stick on that course of what they know.
What you're saying.
And
shoot straight. Tell me what the one thing is.
I know.
You trying to be decent. These two people need reform out here.
So
you talking about prostitution?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Yes, and so that's what they go to. That's what they turn to. So if they got to feed their children, I had one mother. She called me and she said, like, Miss Poe, if you're not able to come and help me, I got to do what I got to do.
There's a mother in the papers, I think, last week sometime, if you remember this. Mm-hmm. She had, I want to tell you, 6 children, and she was arrested and put before the courts, and her children now had to be incorporated into the system. If I'm correct, I got to pull up the paper, right? What do you do in those instances? What do you do when you see things like that's happening, that comes to your light, come to your attention? What do you do when you see that children are now going to become a victim of whatever the circumstances?
But this is where the rite of passage, that education part of it comes in, because we take for granted that people automatically know, like it's like osmosis, like they automatically are going to form into productive, respectable adults who understand. It's not going to happen. You have to help create that. And so the systems have to be in place where, from the community level, from the school level.
This is what I ask you, and this is on the table for both of y'all. Productivity is for the purposes of occupation. When you're out here, we need to be productive citizens because we need to get paid. We know that, right? But decency is only a facade for a great deal of people out here. I mean, big grown adults. And we could see it spitting out on the internet every day, right? You hiding behind a fake name and you just want to be as indecent as possible.
Right.
Because that's live with inside of you. When you start to talk about transformation, I need to know, are you seeing real change and transformation? Or is these showing you what you need to see?
No. So I can tell you that for the ones that we have seen real change and transformation in, it came from, one, giving them a foundation of God. So that was one.
See, that's the conversation
that we
tell me, Howard, you will talk with God every day? Leave it alone.
Right?
The devil is a liar.
And then 2, it was recreating the family. And in recreating the family, it was a foundation of love, honor, and respect.
Now, how you've been doing this for 20 years. The children been calling you mother a long time. Okay? Somebody how much people didn't get married and had their children? Talk to me. Let's be clear.
How many have gotten married?
The reason I ask you this, all of my brothers and I married with children, all of us. Now, we's men, and we know about the culture that exists out here, let's be clear.
Right.
Because, we's grandsalt, so we mad handsome. Talk to me, right? All the girls want us, except my wife. She only want me now, right? So I say that to say, when we were young, society has said the rite of passage is you got to get your bunch of gals, you got to do this, you got to do that.
Yes.
But my culture and my environment, home, no matter
something
what
different.
My daddy say, when I watch him and Mommy Rao, I say, when I get my wife, as a young boy now, when I get my wife, I ain't letting no woman do this to me. I ain't letting. So I already, in my mind, conditioned myself.
Yes.
That this is what I want. All my cousins, save 1 or 2, you got to be able to bring the prodigal son back home one day, right?
Yes.
All my cousins, save 1 or 2, married.
Right.
My brother's married. My wife came up in the same thing. all of her brothers and sisters married.
Right.
Because we've seen this in our house all the time.
Right. And that's why there's the need to get to the family. And that's why I said in terms of getting to the prison and getting to the family, because then they still have to go back to an environment.
So even this generic family that you're showing them, does it
It does, because you have them begin to now see what it should be modeled like. And you would hear them say, oh, I want to have this. I would like to have a house like this. I want to have a family like this. You would hear it begin to say. But because the environment that they come from doesn't depict that, it becomes now this fight. So this is why there's the need to work on the parents as well, because that is also going to help in furthering the transformation. So we probably had maybe 5 of them. Maybe 5 of them that we've seen gone on in terms of to say get married. The vast majority are still young out there, starting
like
careers and living,
I want to talk about this and I want to touch this with you. When we get back, I want to touch these things because, there are some people who contend with some serious things. I know that we can take a break right now, but there's some people who contend with some significant things. And those things have to do with the fact that they've seen some generational ills in their family. Let's not call it generational curses because people just get dead religious. But there are generational ills where your mother or your grandmother was a single mother. Your mother is a single mother. You had us. Grammy had you at, my mommy at 15. Mommy had me at 15. Now 15 lurking up and, you feel your ovarian, your ovaries jump. You will know what's going on because there are some generational ills. Mm-hmm. How do you now combat that even with this generic family? How do you combat that to make a young woman who knows nothing about family and only knows about the independence and the strength of a single mother, when most of the time you see this thing and you say, let's get married. She get married, but the first issue you have, you say, well, I'm going to deal with this. Because my mother never had no man and she was fine. And so now you don't know about being able to fight those things. I want to talk about that. Ladies and gentlemen, please be a part of the conversation. 325-431-4316, 325-425-9, 422-4796. All of these things pinned together because what's happening here in your organization with Rite of Passage actually causes men to feel depressed and need to be uplifted. Ladies and gentlemen, we're having a very good conversation. Quick commercial break. Be right back after this.
The Foundation. We'll be back right after this.
The Foundation. The Foundation.
Here we go. J.S. Johnson Insurance Agents are the best. Reliable service, we've been on the scene, protecting since 1919. J.S. Johnson Insurance has the test. You're always covering me. J.S. Johnson Insurance, peace of mind.
With so much going on in the world today, only accepting cash at your business can be risky. Let Fidelity offer you and your customers safety, convenience, and the flexibility of a fixed or mobile terminal. Take it with you, on the move and on the go, because business should never stop. For more details, speak to one of our business development officers at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit our website at fidelitygroup.com or visit us at any of our branches.
Fidelity, we're good for you.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Foundation. Foundation. The Foundation. The Foundation. 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 The Foundation.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, 4 minutes before we actually have to go and take a commercial break to get to news and get back. But we're still having a very good conversation with none other than Kendra Bowe from Rite of Passage, and we're talking with Dave Williams from Uplifting Men. And we're talking about some things. Now, I wanted to say this, for the sake of the listening audience that exists, this isn't a Christian radio station, right? This is a very, very diverse place. We probably have maybe about 80,000 to nearly 100,000 people listen to us right now as we speak. Okay. Now, a great deal of persons, doctors, lawyers, nurses, politicians, other persons in strategic positions of leadership in our country, a great deal of them, and some persons within banking and others who find themselves on a professional path may have been given an opportunity to go off to school. Right?
Yes.
So they're going off to school.
Yes.
Right? A great deal of them would have carried God, faith with them. And as soon as they hit the touchdown, wherever they are, they don't have their parents there anymore to say, you got to do this, you got to do that. So creeps in different influences.
Yes.
A lot of persons would have been introduced to the LGBT community abroad, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of persons would have been introduced to drugs. A lot of persons would have been introduced to, whether they shake it, whether they didn't shake it, whether they conform to these things, whatever it is, their introduction to it may not necessarily have happened at home. Not everybody.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're sitting here, the question that I have for you is that the exposure and experiences, especially for this demographic and listening audience, has to do with the base of science. And we know the programs that come, whether it's Alcoholics Anonymous, whether it's the therapy, whether it's these particular sessions that gives you an opportunity to kind of decompress and deflect and say, I've been dealing with this, and you deflect. But that doesn't have faith in it.
Yes.
That has nothing to do with faith. Faith has been left on the back burner, and we've incorporated this idea of science.
Yes.
And being able to deal with those things. I need to know whether or not science have worked in the organization that you have, or if your organization is science-based, to be able to find the rhythm of getting the human man back to its space, or is it faith-based?
Let me, I heard Pastor Reno Brennan, I know he goes to your church. He said this years ago when I used to go to Sandlands with the persons for drugs and alcohol. And he said to them, listen to me, y'all going through these 12-step program. He said, y'all need one step. He said, that's Christ. And that always stuck with me. Every program that I've built in Prison Fellowship and any organization must always be based on the merits of Jesus Christ. Not a church, not a denomination.
People scared though, because we remember, and we get 2 minutes before we get on here, and we got to start from here when we get back. We remember one thing, right? I used to go to government school, Mark High School, and there was this guy who used to come preaching every morning, right? He would stand up outside the gate. Y'all need to get saved. You can die. Jesus can kill you. And he would just go on with this all day, all day, all day. People don't want to be badgered with your faith. That's not even what I see in the Word of God. Not to be beating you over your head with what your beliefs are. Your responsibility is to be the light. Your responsibility is to cause people to attract to you.
Right.
Right? And so I think that this is one of the important things that I need to know from you as we go out here. Now, I know y'all want to talk, but you're here with me for another hour. All this next hour is your own, right?
Yes.
But I just wanted to get a good base out to let people know what we're talking about. We're really talking about transformation. We're talking about change. We're talking about how do we find an avenue to find productivity. I want to talk about violence associated with these things. We're going to talk more specifically about those examples. You get a very good example, Dave, about some things that we've seen and whatnot. But I need to know about reform. Is there an avenue for reform? Are people really transforming during this time? Ladies and gentlemen, this is 96.9 FM radio. You got to stick and stay for news. We're going to take news very quickly and be right back after this. It's The Foundation. We'll see you right back.
Foundation. Foundation.
The Foundation. We'll be back right after this.
The Foundation. The Foundation. The Foundation. The Foundation.
2023's first installment of Fish Fry Fridays promises to be a classic. Friday, January 29th. 27th, it's a Visage throwback to the days of 601 as former lead vocalist Colin Nasty Boy McDonald reunites with Sean Wild Boy Ferguson and the rest of the Visage Excitement Posse. It all goes down at Margaritaville, downtown Nassau at the 12-Volt Bar. Doors open at 6:30 p.m. $25 entry fee. Or enjoy the fish fry buffet for only $55 before the event and enjoy complimentary access.
Who is it? It's the plumber. I've come to fix this.
Margaritaville, downtown Nassau and Visage presents the special edition of Fish Fry Fridays with special guest Colin McDonald. Friday, January 27th. Fish Fry Fridays.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Foundation. Foundation. The foundation. The foundation.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, 96.9 FM radio, Guardian Radio, the foundation with Howard Grant, right here in your company, having good conversations with you. I'm hoping that we stir up some stuff. I just needed to know. I just need to know some things. When I come here, I rid myself in this space. When I come here, I rid myself of any sort of idea that I know anything. I don't know. So when you sit before me as, even though I'm informed about some things and I put it before you, I am like a child absorbing what you're saying. And it really gives me an opportunity to engage you the way that I want to if I come here, free, empty, and with the desire to be filled. So I want to thank you, both of you, so very kindly. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just tuning in, we're sitting in studio with Kendra Bowe and Dave Williams, both Kendra, who's head of Rite of Passage, and Dave, who's head of Uplifting Men's. Both of these ministries have been able to really transform the lives of a great deal of people over the past 2 decades, both of you, right?
Yes.
Over the past 2 decades, being able to do these things. And they've been found a way, somehow, they found a way to be able to get together, and they've done something strategic and specific, something that's extremely impactful, and they've been given an opportunity by the government to do some stuff, and I want to talk about that. It's called the ECT, which is Engage, Communicate, Transform, right? So we're going to talk about those things, but before we went off to a break, we started to talk about something more specifically. The generic family that both of, that we talked about, Kendra, that you talked about, and showing young people this idea of a generic family, with them hopefully moving towards that, seeing the structure of a mother, seeing the structure of a father, and incorporating other elements, so forth and so on. That generic structure, you said, the foundation of that doesn't necessarily always have to be faith. But even deeper than faith, one of the principles, which is the greatest principle that we've learned through our faith, is the principle of love.
Of love.
And so now you start to talk about love. But my question to you is that how? How do we know how to love? If we come from a family that doesn't have that affection, that doesn't have that communication, that doesn't have that kind of camaraderie, if we just exist into the same space, and now I become a citizen, I'm going to take those same principles. How do I now push past those principles that didn't teach me how to love, to learn how to love? And then I want to talk to you all about ECT.
Yes, so basically what we did is really having the opportunity to work with young people long enough so that they could see it embodied in terms of how we treat them, how we treat each other, and even when they have a need, their ability to call to us and to see for them to see us answer that call. And so whether it's them needing uniform, whether them needing food, whether it was buying a birthday cake, like literally you have you ever seen rough and tough bad boy break down and cry because he get a birthday cake? Yes. And so these simple things that sometimes we take for granted, but they did not have in their experience. And so by them seeing it happen in that way, okay, my school shoes burst, I don't have school shoes, and we reach out to someone in the community who has a store and say, hey, we need to bring someone, we need a pair of school shoes. And for them to see us come and get them, take them to the store, get their shoes, and then still be treated with respect in the process. So when they see that, they see it embodied, they see what it looks like, they see what it feels like. And then it's something that now they have the opportunity to pattern. And then the way we also are able to teach them the different from what they may have been accustomed to is in sharing the different types of love so that they can identify. So many are quick to identify the eros love, which is the sexual love. And so that's what most of them, they know and they feel and they go after. But we explain about the storge love, which is the love they're supposed to get from their parents and family. We explain about the agape love, which is the unconditional love that they get from God. And we explain about that phileo love, which is the love which is from friendship. And so once they begin to identify that, they could put their life into a better perspective of love and then have a better understanding of how it's embodied. And oftentimes what happens is that although we have so many churches in the Bahamas and we know that with Christ it brings change, oftentimes the church is lacking in love. And people could see that, people could feel that, people could recognize that. You don't got to be saved to recognize if someone loves you. A dog, the pot cake, recognizes when someone shows them love, and they will come to you and they will begin to trust you, and they won't be scared or feel timid or intimidated around you because they recognize the love that you've shown. And I think that's something that the church has to look at, or anyone who is developing, creating programs, is really making sure that it abides in that spirit of love where you are truly, genuinely concerned about the persons that you are going after to help bring change and transformation to.
You know, the fusion between both of you coming together, one for men, one for youth, there is something that actually brought you together, this ECT program. I want you to talk about that, but more specifically, I want you to talk about the gender-based violence, the marital rape, and all these particular things that you've been talking about. You started to tell me on the break about an experience that you had in prison and that you brought some people together. Tell me a little bit more about that, Dave.
Okay, for us, Kendra and I, as we were saying, we, out of the training at the CSJP, which is the Citizen Security Justice Program sponsored by the Ministry of National Security, we and because both of us were involved in prison ministries, and I had the time, I ran a program, I invited Kendra also to be a part of it. It was a job readiness. So this was a preparation stage for persons after, those persons in the class had at least 2 years or less to remain in prison. And so we were preparing them to go back into the outside world. But we also decided we felt led to conduct this program. It was, and credit must be given to the former Minister Frankie Campbell. I was told by Dr. Higgs, Jacinta Higgs. She was then director of the Department of Gender and Family Affairs. And Minister Frankie Campbell at that time got this vision, I think, when he traveled, about having a program specifically geared towards sex offenders in the prison. And he shared it with her. She contacted myself and Kendra, and we were able to get a grant from the government. And this was during the year, partly in 2019 and 2020. And so this program was, I believe now, this is the first time this was ever held in the Bahamas. 25 men were identified, and these were persons, we said, charged with sex crimes against the women and the girls.
In prison?
In prison.
Okay.
And the violence. And so we came into the space. It was a 3-month program that we designed. Kendra and I sat down and was able to put this program together. And it was a faith-based, so that was clear. It was a faith-based program. Because what made Kendra and I mesh together so well is we recognize that true transformation takes place from a change of the heart or the mind, which is from a spiritual perspective. So we added some components to this program just to ensure that it is a faith-based program. And so all of that program, and Kendra and I were sharing how one gentleman recognizing, he said to us, he said, hey.
He looked around the room.
Yeah, he looked around the room.
He's sitting in the room.
Yeah, he's sitting in the room.
And we're in prison now.
Yeah, we're in prison.
Okay, so he looked around the room.
Yeah.
Okay, what did he say?
He said, wait, you all realize all of us in here in this class charged either for raping woman or beating woman?
You know, what's heavy, what you're saying is that whilst we're out here having a conversation about a sexual register, a bill and an act to be able to ensure that we can register all sex offenders and we know who these persons are, it is well known to the prison, it's well known to the prisoners, it's well known in this particular environment. The only people who are oblivious to who these people are is us out here in the general public.
Right.
So we ain't got to get into that particular conversation, but that blew my mind that even in prison, I thought that there was this sort of a mum and not talking about these things. But if everyone know, why are you here?
Yes. One of the things too, and this is what I need to say, Howard, without in any way trampling or stepping on the government toes, and this is why I felt real disappointed, because Kendra and I, we did our work, we did our presentations, we made our presentations in numerous government agencies, national security, youth and sports, social services, and one or two others which I chose not to call at this time on this radio. And I was disappointed, because we talked all last year, we talked about marital rape, gender-based violence, violence against women and girls.
Debated.
Yes, but here's, I went to numerous forums, I was a part of the panel representing men, put on by the social services. But here, Kendra and I have the proposal sitting on whoever this, which should have been funded. I discovered that at the time, there was 177 persons charged with sexual crimes.
In this country?
Yes. Then
177
persons. And
in prison?
In prison.
Hold on, this heavy what you're saying.
Okay.
Hold on. 177 people in prison charged with sexual
violence, crimes against our women and girls.
But y'all only had a forum with 25.
Right.
That's one. Hold on. Two. If 177 in prison, what about the persons who've been released? Or what about the persons who are out here who have these particular tendencies or whatnot? So you're saying to me that the government didn't even gravitate?
That's what I thought would have happened, because Kendra and our program also expanded in the communities, in the churches, in the schools. We had a comprehensive program.
Let's be very clear, because a lot of times we have a tendency to believe as locals that there's nothing being done, or no one's doing anything, or the government didn't fund my program or whatnot. I don't think this has anything to do with you and Kendra's program specifically.
Right.
This is the fact that the government hasn't put significant emphasis on this for the Bahamian people, so we could be out here and decent. I talk about this, I talked about this. Let's be very clear about this. I talked about this. And we can keep hitting this home. Everybody want to kill you right away when we say illegal immigration. Boom! Let's put on a shirt. Let's go by the beach now. That's there, right? People getting murdered every day. They say, let them kill up themselves. Sexual people out here, offenders. The conversation only happens when it pops up in the newspaper. But you need to talk about these things on a regular basis.
Yes.
Because when we talk, it is a scary thing. Last year, was it last year or a year before, when the young girl was walking, I think it was at Collins Avenue, and she was going to school,
and
the fellow exposed himself to her and tried to pull her into the thing, right? The same year, we heard there was a lady that was jogging on the road and get snatched into the bush, and she get violated those things. Come on, man.
Yeah.
These people are out here travailing the streets, and we don't know who they are.
And then we just recently had one where they broke into the home just recently.
Listen to me, man.
Yes,
this is crazy to me.
And the guy sitting up in prison. If we had started this program last year, like Kendra and I had put it forward, we now, a year later, even if we did it in cohorts of 25, we could have had at least 100 persons went through the program. Not only that, Kendra and I recognize we don't have everything. We partnered with Dr. Sean Knowles from Emmanuel Center. He would have come in now from that
a medical perspective to be able to assess them for mental health.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So we could have had at least 100 individuals, 3 months, would have went through the program. Dr. Knowles would have made the final evaluation based on his professional evaluation. And
now I need to know what the WASA's program is very good as it relates to transformation for the individual. There needs to be a social transformation, an element of social transformation. And I want to know from you, whether you want to get into it or not, I feel I have the responsibility to ask you whether or not you're an advocate to be able to identify these offenders, whether or not you're an advocate or one of the person who believes that after you've gone through, if you are one of the persons who are sexual offenders, that you should be able to be on a register and everyone socially should know who these particular persons are.
Well, we were working with case management. So case management identified the individuals. And my vision, our vision out of that program, because Kendra and I did the job readiness program also. So out of that program, now we could have had you go into the job readiness program, preparing you for outside. And the job readiness program was a very simple program.
Our society for far too long has operated on shame. Their method of choice for time immemorial, from that we know, has been through the avenue of shame. The reason why you do the bank lien shuffle wasn't to be able to bring shame to the thief or the murderer. They've already committed those particular crimes. But it was a mechanism designed to be able to bring shame to the family. You understand? Oh, Jesus, I can't believe it. So the idea was, I can't shame my mommy. I can't shame me this. I can't shame me that. And so people would move away from that because that was even introduced. But now that shame element is off the table. Nobody cares about that no more. If I can do the thing, I can do the thing. Well, I need to know more about transformation. We need to know more about these particular things. And I want to talk about that with you.
Okay.
We got some texts here. Can I read one or two texts?
Okay.
So it says, guys, please send your text. So give us a call, 325-4316, 325-4316, 325-4259, 422-4796. Howard, you know what's upsetting? This problem of violence stems from youth not having good economic activities. A lot of boys who become men don't have those opportunities growing up. But we don't want to address the main issue. Why are so many women having children knowing that there is not a father present and they don't have the means to provide? This is where this issue starts, and no one wants to address this. We need to teach more girls to stop bringing children into this world without means. That's a text.
Yes. Yeah, so I want to say, sex education seems to be a little bit taboo. That somehow there's the thought that if you teach people about sex, it's going to make them to want to have more sex. And the reality of it is people think, I was talking to a pastor and I was saying, because I would like for us to be able to put on a program to work with mothers in the community, because it wasn't an urban area, a well-established church. And I said to work with women in the area so that to help to educate them so that they don't have as many children, knowing that they're not in the position. And people think, oh dear, they should just know. But there is a different way of thinking and viewing life. And only when you bring that education in on a level they understand, and you teach them and you train them, are we going to see a curb in that. And that's something that we have to do.
Because this is you're not saying just give them condoms. You're saying educate them.
Educate them.
Yeah, because there has been this conversation about you need to be able to provide condoms in school, and I believe that's controversial. I believe that's scary.
I
you ain't gonna give my daughter no condoms. That's
I think it's educating them so that they are aware of the responsibilities that come with sex, the responsibilities that come with parenthood, the different methods. They say there's the ABC. A is abstain from sex. B, I can't remember B is C is condomize. But the point is there are ways in which you can educate them so that you give them viable options to say, okay, you're not ready to be a mother. You know that if you do this is what's going to happen. So this is ways in which you can protect yourself. But you got to educate them. You have to and that's why, again, the rite of passage is important, because you have to fill them with the information we think automatically or people should know, and they know better. But obviously we see it and what's happening that's not the case.
I went to school. I was born early 80s, and I went to school as a young boy in the 80s. And no one had to tell me about sex. This was an extremely taboo topic at the time.
Right.
No one talked about sex, but we know it was evident.
Yes, it was evident.
We hear, Jesus, we born.
Even if you look at social media today, there's a lot that's being learned through social media.
Now, this is what I was trying to explain to you. Without the advent of social media, without the conversation from our parents or our Grammy, or any of these particular things, we used to do something called ring plays. The Bahamas is extremely sexualized.
Yes.
I was winding up on gals. Trust me, I couldn't wait to get there. I couldn't flip.
Even on the church bus, we used to be doing that.
Them said over there flipping, but I over here, we whining and doing our thing over here, right? Sorches, Remember, talk to me.
Yeah.
I don't even know who Mr. Walking Stick is.
Me neither.
But we know, as we grow older through retrospect, oh, Jesus God, look at what Mr. Walking Stick is.
Yeah.
So my point is that our society has been extremely sexualized, and that sexual energy that exists socially has been channeled as we grow older into promiscuity, because you want to find out about it because of a lack of sex education.
Yes.
Because of a lack of sex education, right? So we lead to promiscuity. But if we know about it, let me tell you.
Yes.
we found out at the 10th grade and the 11th and the 12th grade about the rhythm method, about different birth controls, about different sexual transmitted disease, about this, about that, about after the period. So we were so educated. When I started to talk to me, I knew when to do it, how to do it, so forth and so on, because we would have already been educated about this, right? And I married a woman. Y'all, let's just be decent. Don't look at me like that.
No.
Jesus! You're indecent.
You was going to go with that.
No, talk, man.
Stop it being yourself.
Like looking guy.
It's a good, decent, Anglican man, right? Praise God.
I older than you, so I know my background, where I came from.
Yes.
So
let me read a couple more texts. This is Howard, great show. Next one, this is Howard. We have to get the youngsters back in Sunday school. Too many of us of our denominations are not putting the emphasis on this.
Sunday school has taken a big drop. Big drop.
Too much.
Because that's a part of educating.
Extremely, right? Too many of the denominations are not putting the emphasis on this important movement. It is tried and a proven formula. We cannot wait until these young men become out of control and terrorize our neighborhood. Get them back in Sunday school or take the Sunday school to them. Too much talk, Howard. All right, so that's a text that actually came through. I said, should we feel free national Bahamian parenting classes? Should we have free national Bahamian parenting classes? Right?
I think that's so, and
that's what we were, one of the church that I was speaking about earlier, that was the conversation, was for their community, that they have a good
I can bring immigration in this right now. I can bring immigration in this right now, and somebody can call, because they won't cuss.
All right, before you do, let me put in the plug for our church. So we still, to this day, the Adventists, we still have Sabbath schools.
Sabbath schools.
Yeah, we're firm believe in that, and to this day we still have that there.
I like that. Now let's do this. Let me watch this element I can bring here. So the gentleman was very specific in saying free national Bahamian parenting classes. That's emphasis on the national Bahamian for me whilst I'm reading this, right? And I'm thinking about this. I think we should open it to the cultures that are in trying to infiltrate our society. Let me tell you why. Good afternoon to Stephanie. Stephanie, in her particular capacity, was head over Rights Bahamas at one particular point.
Right.
Stephanie, your last name, St. Fleur, right?
Right. Yeah.
Stephanie St. Fleur at one point came on one of the stations I was at, and she wanted to have a conversation about these things. She started to talk about sexual violence, and her background is the community, the Haitian community.
Right.
So I said, I've grown up with Haitians, and I know about the stories that they tell after they get old.
Right.
You didn't know why they were maturing so much when we were young, but as we get old, we heard these stories about uncles and fathers and whatnot in the shanty town actually tampering with them, dealing with them from a sexual perspective. And I said to her, I think it's wrong, and Stephanie, you can give me a call if you're listening. I think it's wrong that you take the perspective of being able to deal with Bahamian men and say what to do with Haitian women or what to do in this particular respect if you're not going back to the shanty town and telling them, if you want to be a part of our society, if you want to be able to move into to being a Bahamian, you need to understand that this is not a part of our culture. We don't touch our little children. This is taboo. We don't do this. And even if this is the culture that you come from, you need to understand this is how we deal with our women in our society. So my point to that texter, it shouldn't only be national for Bahamian nationals.
Okay.
If you open it up and you're going to be able to teach sex education, it should be across the board.
Okay.
Why? Because this is community.
Yes.
And I still need to see these people on a day-to-day basis. They go into school with my daughter. They go into school with my son. They go into school with your daughter and your son. They are a part of our community. We're not going to be able to tear them from the fabric of who we are. They're here. Educate them, make them to understand this is our expectation, this is our standard, this is where we are. So I'll be able to read that, right?
And one of the things too, I'll say this, and this could be a bit controversial, but I can say this because I actually look for it. A number of times, I read the newspapers every day, literally every day. A number of times, instances where I've seen persons, adults, males, charged with sexual molestation. The names have always pointed towards persons of Haitian title. Right? Now, I know that could be very controversial, but I must say that a number of times, and I looked at the names.
Let me hear.
Yeah, French, of the French, the title, which would indicate that this seems to be a thing within that Haitian community.
Wow.
I'm talking about where adults, male adults, with the molestation of young girls.
Drive it home again. The 25 people that you had out of the 177 people, how many of them was from a particular culture or background?
Well, honestly, I did not check it, and
but it was the majority.
I honestly can't.
You won't be decent. Go ahead.
Yeah.
But it was mixed.
Right.
It was
But
a-
25. Now, because see, we didn't deal with all who were present. The case manager selected. But over
Right.
25, it was a mixed group. So it was mixed between, and what I want to say and put out there so that people understand it, is as we were having that particular session and those men started to feel comfortable to share their own stories,
Yes.
some of them had been raped and molested.
Yes.
And then also there
Hasn't
was
that-
a different ideology of what rape was. And so again, this is where the education process comes in. And this is why it's so important, the program that we're doing, which is we want to engage on a community level.
Yes.
And we want to educate and then teach them now how to communicate effectively to see this transformation in this particular area.
The fact of the matter is, no longer can we be like our parents and grandparents who say, well, child, just leave that alone. I don't think we're going to see the strong nation that we envision, especially as we now know that we're moving towards the 50th anniversary of our nation.
Yes.
And as we look back and sort of take a recollection over the past 50 years, what have we done? What have we not done? Where have we dropped the ball? Where have we gone wrong? And I think that is one of the major things that we've done. We've never been, and I don't know if I could blame our forefathers because a lot of them didn't have the words, the education, the experience, the exposures to really have the
I just think that
conversations.
somewhere along the line in that 50 years is that the knowledge wasn't transferred to the next generation of those things that did work, those fundamental truths that we needed to hold on to. It wasn't
But
transferred.
you know what happened? It didn't have roots. Let me tell you why. We didn't understand why we did what we did. We did it because we were told.
Right.
And so the difference between this generation and the ones prior is that
I need to know why.
I need to know why you just tell me to do this.
You know, I would say too,
educated.
Howard, as a young fella, this is over 30 plus years ago. When I came to BEC, young boy, 21 years old, and I can remember a gentleman said to me, he said this to me, he said, oh, Dave, that's for y'all. Y'all going in Pinland Army. That's the words he used. National Youth Service. And I'm saying to say this, had that National Youth Service was established then, I didn't.
As a young fella tell you that?
No, this was someone older than me, but I was a young boy.
That's how they labeled it.
Yeah, into BEC. And he was saying, because I think the age was, you had to be under 35. If he was over 35, then, you know, because he was saying, oh, well, he ain't got to worry about that, right?
They call it Pinland Army?
Yeah, that's what he called it then. He said, y'all going in Pinland Army. I didn't understand then. But had we established that National Youth Service then, today, I honestly convinced and convicted we wouldn't have had the problems that we have in society today.
Yeah, but we
Let's
keep
go back to
talking-
that.
We keep talking like it's too late. Like we can.
No, right, it
well,
is
you
too
know,
late. We can do it
life
now.
coming to an
Yes.
end tomorrow. My
Well,
God, if we had done, well, Jesus, it's the time.
Yeah, let's start now.
It's the time.
It'd be mandatory. All these young boys in
all us mightn't be here, but you can start.
I read me and Pastor Carlos read. He did a program on national security last year sometime. They identified, I think, like 20 or 25 of the most troublesome persons in the junior high schools. They came to the Hope Center, and we had an all-day session with them, including the two major speakers were two persons. One was incarcerated for 30 years. One was incarcerated for 21 years for murder. And they shared their story. And so I'm saying if we can start programs, more programs, it can't just be one and done. That's my problem with this stuff. It's just a one and done. You see what I'm saying? And so listening to the stories of those two young men who said made one choice, Kendra, one bad choice. One already spent 30, the next one then spent 21 years for one poor choice. And so if we could identify the young men and start now and make it mandatory that these young boys, these young men, be a part of this program in spite of the noise. We gotta do this for your children, and I got grandchildren, and Kendra got grandchildren. We gotta do this for our grandchildren. But if we can sit here and talk, when our grandchildren reach our age, think what it's gonna be like then. Imagine.
That's heavy stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad that you're part of the conversation. I want you to be able to call in, or I can just read your text if you want to do that. 422-4796, 325-4316, 325-4259. That's a text before we get to this break. This is call me old-fashioned, but if we don't drive home establishing the nuclear family as the basis of bringing people into the world, then we have failed. This ain't about sex education, but the moral law, because condoms aren't 100%. Guys, this is The Foundation with Howard Grant right here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We're going to take this quick commercial break and be right back after this.
The foundation. The foundation.
The foundation. We'll be back right after this.
The foundation. The foundation.
Ready to step into the future? From your front door to the backyard and everywhere in between. See and speak to whoever's there with Ring Video doorbells and security cameras now available at Alive. Protect what matters most, all from one easy app. Available in your Google or Apple Play Store. Visit bealive.com/ring to learn more. We are alive.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Foundation. Foundation. The foundation. The foundation.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, 96.9 FM radio, Guardian Radio. So happy to have you in our company. The Foundation with Howard Grant right here, kind of jamming today. And I hope that you're enjoying the conversation. I truly am. I'm sitting with Kendra Bowe. She is from Rite of Passage, and Dave is definitely from Uplifting Men. But I want to talk more specifically about this ECT that you guys had going on, which is Engage, Communicate, and Transform. We've gotten a significant amount of persons call in here. We're talking about, and on the break, we touched something, right? And I hate to bring up the immigration issue all the time and kind of just bang at it. But the truth is that I feel like one of the issues or one of the pillars that exists that separates those of us of Bahamian heritage and a great deal of persons who have Haitian heritage is our understanding of community and the way that we commune with each other. Right? That's just how I feel, right? I know this because I would have heard stories from my Haitian friends that I went to school with who would have told me years later, we're grown people now. And if we get into casual conversation about some stuff, they say, well, my uncle did this to me, and I try to tell my mommy, and, they say, well, what this is, and so forth and so on. If you have a desire to be a part of a community, you cannot bring your culture with you. In the United States of America, you have to renounce not only your nationality, but renounce this idea that the establishment and the cultures and ethnicity can stay with you. But if you want to become a part of our community, you have to learn our ways. Yes. You're going to have to learn our ways. You understand? And if you don't learn our ways, there must be separation. You got to be rejected. Let's take a telephone call. Carly on the line with us live. Go ahead. Hello, caller.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead, caller. How you doing?
I just called to give my 5 cents, this is a very interesting conversation, and this touched me different, I think in the Haitian community is very dominant, and I think the difference is a lot of the Haitian community speak up about it. You see what I'm saying? And I want to bring that to an example, because here it is, a friend of mine, right? She was molested at a young age, when, I was talking to her and I was telling her, you got to speak up at your own pace, And even when she spoke up about it to her parents, and these are Bahamians, full-born Bahamians, even when she spoke up to her about her situation, and it happened from her brother, you know what I mean? And her family was like, okay, don't say anything, because you don't want the embarrassment, that family, So I think that's an important key factor that makes the difference. These people in these Haitian communities, they ain't scared to speak up, but it's very, and this is not the first friend I've had who've had this situation where a Bahamian family says, keep this under wrap. You know, you don't want to bring shame. Let's just deal with that in-house. And I detest that. I'm totally against that. And that's the difference. You could go in any Haitian community and these girls, or even boys rather, they'll speak up, and then sometimes they'll get the support, whether it's from outside community or in-house community where they move the child or whatever. But in these Bahamian families, man, you will stay in that house and they'll talk to this person like normal. The people come around with like I said, this touched me deep. So that's my 5 cents that makes the difference. And
Thank you, my brother.
You
didn't cut him, right? You still there? No.
You know?
Okay, go ahead.
That's just from my personal observation. Whereas the differences between the communities, one afraid to speak up and say, okay, talk, and then they'll move the child from here and take them somewhere. And sometimes the child would, go to another family. But these Bahamian families, and that's where I leave that, man.
Thank you, man.
All day.
I appreciate you, man. But let's shoot straight. As it relates to this particular concept, and if we want to touch marital rape before we get out of here, that is a taboo idea also. Because truly, from a religious standpoint, a lot of people say, "Well, I can't rape myself. How I can rape myself, Howard? And the two shall become one." This is the first thing they say, right? And they say, "Well, how I can do those things, right?" And so there is this sort of an idea that you have to be relentlessly submissive to your husband in these particular instances, right? And so when we hear this, when we hear about all these things, I just believe that it's one of the elements, the C, a communication. This kind of an idea needs to exist. And I want to touch that for just 2 seconds. Because this is something that you're focused on. What are your positions before we get out of here on marital rape and whether or not this is, you can't rape yourself? I don't understand that. If my wife says she ain't want bother, she ain't want bother. I mean, I've been married for 20 years. Don't worry, baby. It's Monday. I understand. You can get it Tuesday, though. 7 days in ago. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about it.
Okay, so Dave, you going or you want me to start up?
I wanted to read something. I ain't.
I don't know. Can they hear me? Because I'm not hearing myself.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to just to read something that because they've had quite a few workshops, symposiums in terms of the marital rape that I've been to, and this is one of the booklets that they issued at one of them. And I just want to read this because this is on the premise of one of the reasons why it's being supported as to this area here in terms of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. And this is 1966, and this is Article 7 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. And it says it provides that no one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment. The Human Rights Committee, while declining to limit specific acts covered by Article 7, has stated that the prohibition in Article 7 relates not only to the acts that cause physical pain, but also the acts that cause mental suffering to the victim as well. And so why I wanted to read that, and the premise why they're using that, is because there was a immunity that was somehow given to the husband who may have inflicted this kind of pain on the wife. And I think that sometimes for people are when they're hearing this, just as you said, how can I rape myself? But a husband can murder his wife, and wouldn't he go before the courts if he murdered his wife? He would. And so I think when people think sex, they think it's such a fine or thin line. But I think that anyone can agree that we all know the clear difference and distinction when someone is being loving and caring and compassionate and someone is being violent and abusive. And what the law is simply trying to do is saying when it gets to that state of being violent and abusive, that is wrong, that is not love, that does not fall in line with biblical principles that we abide by. And so there should be some recourse in the law for a woman, although she may be married, if she has been violated in this way as an individual, there should be some recourse for her.
I agree with you.
What I would say, call. Okay, go
let me take a telephone call. Calling on the line with us live. Go ahead.
Hello?
Hey, how you doing?
Everything cool, Howard.
That's good, man.
Good good day to your listeners.
Good day, good day.
The last caller just now. That ain't the first time I hear people talk about it, and that ain't nothing new what we know happening here in this country. But we need to take it just as serious as we taking this marital rape, if you could rape your wife or if you could rape your husband. I mean, I don't know if you call that incest, but that's rape, man. What should be, that's David Will and Brother Dave, what should be the penalty, or what is the punishment? Or what, do they have a law there already for persons who cover up stuff like that? Mothers, the daddy fool with the little child, or the brother, or the nephew, or the cousin. How do we condole that? Why are we not making enough noise about that? Traumatizing these little boys and these little girls. It happened to the little boys and the little girls.
But you know what happened, Papa, over the course of time? Let me tell you what happened. My school, Abe Maroc High School, way in the back of the bush, right? You got to travel miles to come to Abe Maroc High School, and on top of the mile, you got to travel another 2 miles in the deep of the bush to come there. All right, so when we saw new students, if we come back to school in September, and we saw new students, either they pregnant or they just, because it's normally girls, right?
Okay.
Or they get rejected from school, right? Either but their parents from Freeport send them to 8 Mile Rock because they want to bring shame to the family in Freeport. The same thing happened with the principal. This is the principal now.
Right.
You send them to Eleuthera, Long Island, Exuma. You never dealt with the issue. Some uncle in the family raped a little girl, 14, 15 years old. Never dealt with the issue.
What should be the punishment, man? What is the punishment for these people who doing these things, and these mothers and parents and families who covering it up?
You know, I would say too, in the same...
Do you have any punishment there yet, or there ain't no punishment for it?
Well, I don't know, but if I had to advocate, I would advocate for the punishment in that instance, as well as when a woman falsified a report of rape. Because there are cases, there are challenges where men have found themselves on the other side of the law simply because the woman accused them of rape. I give you a classic example. If Howard White right now goes and cries rape, the police will come in the studio, lock up Howard. Right?
So, Howard, you know he's a big man.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
right. They can lock you up, right? And so they can lock you up. Tomorrow you can't come around Guardian Radio and say you want to do a show.
Everybody then tell me Howard is a rapist.
He's a rapist. So you're convicted a year later. I mean, you are found innocent a year or two later.
Yeah.
What happens then? You have lost thousands of dollars. But even more than that, you have lost your reputation. So for me, no, I'm just saying, so as equal the penalty, we talked about the marital rape, and I think the thing is this word rape. Because in the section 15 of the sexual violence...
Brother Dave, I'm trying to tell you this marital rape is just as serious as the brothers who raping their little sisters, or the uncles who rape, or the uncles who raping their niece, or the daddies who fooling with their children.
No, I am agreeing with you because I support the fact that it is wrong to...
What we can do about it? We gotta stop saying it wrong. We gotta do something. We gotta say we gotta tell them. We want them to start making examples. We gotta make not loopholes, but how do you say reward whistleblowers, people in the family who get the nerve to say something. You might say that's a child. You can't believe what the child say, but the child might be telling the truth. The big set might be telling a lie.
I agree.
Understand? And these little young said who having the baby or whatsoever. You talking about you don't know who the baby daddy is. That time it's her daddy, child. Listen, one last thing. You think this thing, Mom, I say good evening to you too, good afternoon to you too. I can't remember your name, but good afternoon. I like what you're doing. I don't want to ask you and Brother Dave, if it's possible, it sounds like you all two say you all join up. I don't want to ask you all first, when did her group start, when her organization start, what year Brother Dave won't start, then I don't want to ask you all. I mean, suggest to you all and tell you all how I think that's a good idea and suggest to you all and the rest of organizations out there who doing some of the same things you all doing. So let's come together, for you all to come together, for you all to right now, like how you all had the initiative to do it, the intestine to do it, and the courage, and the sense, the wisdom to do it. You see Candy Gibson in our village?
Yes.
Maybe you all can link up with her.
Yeah.
What she doing for the people who she doing it for, all relate to the same thing. Because when Brother Dave can do his part, this lady in here could do her part. Right. Then Candy Gibson could do her part. So rather than everybody doing the same, I know we get a bunch of churches and we all say we praising God, all kind of different denomination and religion and all kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But this thing what you all do it, I won't commend you all for that and suggest to the rest out there. And if it's possible, you all could reach out to Candy Gibson. I know everybody will get along.
Candy should be listening. And
she listen to me. All us as humans.
I got some more thing before we get out of here.
I got you going. All us as humans, and sometimes we mightn't get along, but look at the bigger picture. What we're trying to do. The bottom line is you're trying to help people. So it ain't about Candy Gibson. It ain't about you, brother David. It ain't about the lady. And y'all keep up the good work and happy New Year.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, let's take this commercial break and be right back after this. Is Foundation Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. We'll be right back after this.
Foundation.
The Foundation will be back right after this.
We're good for you. Whether your business is in store, on the go, or both, let Fidelity work with you to maximize your customers' payment options with a fixed or mobile terminal so that you never miss a sale. It's safer than cash and more convenient so that you can take your business anywhere. For details, contact a business development officer today at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport, or visit our website at fidelitygroup.com.
At Wendy's, we are different. We don't just use beef, it's fresh, never frozen. Our burgers are square because we never cut corners. Served hot off the grill with fresh lettuce, tomatoes, onions, and American cheese. We believe in fast food done right. Always serving fresh, never frozen beef. Order a hot, juicy Dave single, double, or triple. Made with fresh, never frozen beef. Now only at Wendy's. Different inside and out.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Foundation. Foundation. The foundation. The foundation. Foundation.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. This is The Foundation with Howard Grant, right here on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. So happy to be in your company. I'm so very grateful for the opportunity to be able to jam with you today. And we're having a very good conversation. Guys, I just want to be able to say thank you so very kindly for that. I see that we have a caller on the line. Let me see if I can get this caller in before we get out of here. Caller, you're on the line with us live. Go ahead.
Yes, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I just want to say something quick.
Go ahead.
I got a call this morning from a gentleman with a foreign accent who was trying to get my card number from me. He asked me if my card number began with such and such number, and I said, yes, it do. I said, well, why are you calling me? You should not be calling me. So he was trying to get my entire card number. So he went on to say, well, miss, your card has been compromised. There's an amount of $300 that's going through, and there's another amount for $1,500. So I said to him, I am not going to give you my card number. And as I said, again, you should not be calling me. So he said, well, hold on, miss, I'm going to transfer you to my superior who can further talk to you. But in the interim, he hung up on me. So I know right then and there it was a prankster trying to call, but I want to just let the public know to be vigilant out there. But he was talking to the right person. I'm a retired former banker from a retired bank, and I worked in the card center for some years. Mm-hmm. So I know a bank would never call you to get your card number, nor a reputable company would never call you. So people out there, be vigilant. Do not give your personal information out to nobody, because they start this stupidness again. I just thought to let you know so the public can hear. Anyway, nice show, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so very kindly for being able to call in there. It's always a great opportunity to be able to be informed. Guys, always check yourselves and be able to... Somebody text here, and they call the establishment name. And so I didn't want to call the establishment name. They're saying that they went to a reputable establishment to get some And in getting that, next thing they know, they saw $180 on their credit card. So, guys, please be vigilant during this time. There's still a desperate time in our country. There's still a desperate period that persons are going through. So let's do that. But before we get too sidetracked about anything else, you wanted to say something.
Yes, we were still discussing the whole marital rape thing, and I think there will always be extremes in terms of the two sides of it. But I think that the biggest thing is really education towards rape and sexual
I feel
violence.
like the biggest thing here for me is love.
Right.
Yeah, 'cause
And
I love my wife. I
Yeah.
don't want to beat her up and things like that. And as a big fella, I always equate this, and people laugh at me. I always equate this to consumption, right? I want my wife for myself. I want a part of her. I want her to be with me. And as the larger guy, I never throw my food on the ground, stump on it, and then try to pick it up and eat it again. That don't make no sense. You understand?
Right.
Why would you treat your wife like this? If you don't do that for yourself and whatnot, why would you treat your wife in this particular manner? Yeah, we
Right.
can have some disagreements. We can row days come. But I don't believe that it should be to the ultimate detriment in being able to do those things. I have been with a woman for years.
Right.
And if she don't feel like it because whatever reason, that's okay.
Right.
That's okay.
And I just think that there is just a culture of violence we have. And I think we need to really get to the bottom of that. Why are we so violent as a people? Why would it come to the point of you as a man even feeling the need to have to use force as it pertains to your wife? There was a gentleman who shared his story, and he said he took a girl out on a date. And he said when he took her out on a date, he bought her food, and then he went and had sex with her. Now, he said she was resisting. She was saying no.
She didn't eat my food.
But she didn't eat his food. And he said,
Jesus
how he was trained.
It's crazy.
How he was trained is you take it. So in his mind, he was not thinking that he was committing rape. And that's why I said there has to be an education towards it for people to have a different understanding and perspective towards it. So some people have just simply been trained in a certain way of violence. And I think that we have to have that kind of conversation so that people can be retrained and they can think different towards it and also understand consent a little bit more.
And I agree with Kendra. I know that person who she's talking about. We grew up together. And he has been incarcerated for rape 2 or 3 times, which is the reason why persons like him and others need programs like Kendra and I were presenting, and others along with the Dr. Sean.
But
Knowles
who's
and those
saying
persons.
that? Who's saying that to their sons? I mean,
He's
this
sitting right
is
here in prison.
wild. Let me tell you something.
He's sitting in prison today.
I see my son. Very young age. He was playing with my daughter. They're about 2 years apart. And so he's playing with her, and she keeps saying, stop, 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 stop. And he doesn't stop. So I grab him, and I said, let me explain something to you. When a woman says stop, stop is stop.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand that. And I think it stems from that.
Yes.
Because if he continues in this particular light, who knows which category he can lean over into in due time and due season. You've rejected the idea of what stop means in the first place.
Yes.
So why do I believe that you would be respectful when it comes to such an intimate moment?
Yes.
Especially when your blood rushing and boiling and hot.
Yes.
You're ready to go. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so when you're in this kind of a space or whatnot, and you don't understand stop from a child, you think you can understand it now?
No.
You can never understand it. Let's read the next text quick before we get out of here. It says, Howard, please tell that caller that deep secrecy exists in the Haitian community. As a teacher, experience that Bahamian or expertise that Bahamians, that Bahamians are more vocal than these issues, on these issues. Okay, we could be able to see that, right? So let's see if we can be able to read something. Taking and raping is a saying I grew up hearing. Jesus, I never heard this in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You heard this before?
Yeah, I heard that.
What
I heard
was
a
this?
student,
Jesus?
but a student was saying it also in reference.
I never heard this in my entire life.
Taking even from someone, and they was adamant in them telling me, Miss Bo, no, that's taken. That ain't stealing. I take it from him. He's stealing.
You know what I hear people saying now? Exchanging or robbery to perpetuate prostitution. So I figure they sing it in the song. Yeah. Exchanging or robbery. Yeah. So the exchange of funds or cash for sex in robbery is a very clear exchange. This should be a business transaction.
Between two people.
They nobody understand that these children turn into on the other side. Let's just be decent like that, right? So they say taken and raping is a saying that I grew up hearing, usually followed by a boisterous laughing, an agreement from whatever the other men were, for whatever other men were present. That does mean that. Well, I never heard that before. I must tell you that.
Never
in my life
one
heard
thing
that
I think we ought to address. Remember last year sometime a gentleman was charged with sex again with a young lady. He got a permission, but there was a big age difference.
Yes.
And everybody crucified the fella, and he ought to, when he spent time, he's incarcerated, he was sentenced. But I say for me, I would want to reach that 14-year-old child, because this is not a case of rape. She gave consent, right? Nobody talked about it. What if that was my daughter? Do you think I could feel comfortable with my 14-year-old daughter? Even if it was a 16-year-old boy, I can't feel comfortable. So we need to give her counseling. We need to talk with her, because guess what? If she move on from the 35-year-old man, she may go to another 20-year-old boy or 22-year-old boy. You see what I'm saying? But we ain't addressing that. All the focus was on the fact that this man fooled with this underage girl, even though she gave consent. And I'm saying, we got to sit down.
But no one is talking about these things. When I went, and watch me, for all you bus drivers who have it on in the bus, turn it loud. Let's talk loud. Let's be very clear. When I was young, bus drivers in my community was the major perpetrators.
Yeah.
Yes.
Major perpetrators.
You know, there's a sign
14,
that's still
15-year-old
that says
major
start having sex with
perpetrators.
a
You understand? And the little girls want transportation. They wanted this. They wanted that. They wanted all these particular things. And they were major in this particular instance. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's 2 o'clock. And the time has come for us to be able to pull that. I see some text that came through. I want to be able to read that. I got to have you guys back to have very clear conversations about how do we find resolution for these things in our lives as we continue to be able to move forward. I thank you so very kindly for being able to sit with me today and really being able to contribute to a national conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been Kendra Bowe from Rite of Passage and Dave Williams from Uplifting Men. Guys, we had a great conversation. I really want you to come back in February, in the month of love.
Yes.
Let's do that, seriously.
Yes.
In the month of love, we could talk about how this ain't necessarily love.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the agape love and other things. I like that. This is 96.9 FM Radio, The Foundation with Howard Grant. I thank you so much for tuning in. Tomorrow is going to be Small Business Thursday, and you still got time if you want to be able to get your stuff in there. Please give me a call, 827-0111, 827-0111. Be a part of it. We're going to be talking